Welcome back, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back, IWC. It's me. It's me. It's the GOC. Coming to you live to tape 25 feet below the surface of the earth for another episodic YouTube adventure on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel for Chaos Corner. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted, raw dog for you, the fans. My over 50 years as a historian, a researcher, a scout, an agent, a producer, a fan, a smark, a mark. That's right, I said it, a mark, and I'm proud of it. We're all marks at one time or another. And of course, my over 3 decades in this business as a pro wrestling manager who took the fucking bumps, which is much more than most of you out there could say. Now lighten up. Kayfabe, man. Sit back and enjoy, relax, as we concentrate here on tag team wrestling. A forgotten art in today's business. Something that's definitely hurting the business. You go back to the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and tag team wrestling was king. As important as the World Heavyweight Champion. And in 2025, whether it be the WWE, AEW, you could talk about any company you want. They have dropped the ball on tag team wrestling. So I'm here to remind you of the depth and all the great tag teams of the eras gone by. Yesterday, not only did I do the opening monologue, we ran over some of the top teams in the 70s. And today, it's a loaded show as we review some of the greatest teams of the 1980s. Sit back and relax. You're in for a ride. I'm going to hop off all the other social media platforms. Meet me back here on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. Because this isn't a fucking podcast. This is a show. Shout out to my mods, the OTS Tribal Queen, and of course, my brother from another mother, Austin Nance. Keeping it real, holding it down, and maintaining. I'm still recovering from that hand injury, but I ain't fucking going anywhere. In order to get respect, you have to start with respecting yourself. Once you do that, you open other people's minds to respecting you. Because there's 3 types of people in this world. Those who don't know what happened, those who wonder what happened, and people like the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, that make things happen. Drop an elbow on that like button. Subscribe. Share this out. Leave a comment. And this is for you, YouTube, for stepping on my throat for the last 3 months. Taking away all the commercial ads and revenue that I did make from this show. Now I'm not making a nickel, but I'm not here for that because I really don't give a fuck. And I apologize for the cussing. I'm here out of motivation, out of passion, out of love. Something's been a part of my life for over 50 years. Let that sink in. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. So sit back and relax as we go through it. Listen, no, this is no particular order. I'm just going to mention a lot of the tag teams.
Motion detected at front camera.
Somebody's always watching. Big Brother's always watching. And just know that I know, and you know that I know, that you're watching. It gets back to me. Well over 1 million total views on this channel. For this small channel with only 3,000 subscribers. Over 5,000 videos. Navigate the playlist. Over 500 episodes of the Chaos Corner show. So back to tag team wrestling, which is a lost art. And I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Triple H, Tony Khan, whoever runs TNA, MLW, the NWA, Ring of Honor, New Japan. It doesn't matter who you're talking about. You're dropping the ball. Tag team wrestling. Bring it back. I challenge you, like I said yesterday when I was running over some of the greatest teams of the 70s, name 10 tag teams in 2025 that are legendary, that are going to make it to the Hall of Fame. Name a dozen tag teams. Show me the depth. Leave a comment in the Premier chat. Say something. Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? Hello, McFly? Is anybody home? I want to hear what you have to say. Defend today's product, because I think it's a bunch of horse shit. But I still cover it, whether it's over on Twitter, aka X, at Big Daddy GOC. And the GOC stands for the Guardian of Chaos. I post almost daily over there. And also here on the community section, in the post section, I cover all the live events from the WWE and AEW. It's just that simple. This is a temporary distraction, a much needed stress reliever. So here, again, no particular order, but I just want to show to you, the fans, and most of you out there have the brain of a dehydrated baby. I mean, no offense, man. All you geeks and nerds and virgins and neckbeards and mouth breathers and goons. And I'm not talking about my crowd. I'm talking about the people that pop in here and lurk in the shadows. I see you. Have a set of balls, act like you touched a pair of tits before, and step into the conversation. And speaking of that, this is another story for another time that I'm going to get into when it comes to women's wrestling. And everybody out there that watches it for TNA and they see somebody in a thong and fishnets with their ass hanging out. Grow up. Act like a man. Watch for the physicality of it. For the sheer athleticism. Not to get your rocks off and start glazing everybody. And no offense, man. If you don't like it, change the fucking channel. Because I'm going to do this regardless. Just remember what I'm all about and who I am. 25 years behind the walls, bounty hunter, bodyguard, private security, protecting you and the community, walking amongst society's worst with respect. A job that you people would be afraid to do. That's what I'm all about. Reality, respect. So you're better off when you walk out of here than when you fucking walked in here. So you can hold a conversation at your next venue, your next event, your next party, at the pub, the tavern, the bar, the restaurant, at the water cooler, wherever it is that you fucking hang out, man. And again, I do apologize for the cussing, but this is something that hits home with me. That's how you know this is real. No bells, no whistles, no music, no graphics. Raw dog. And you see how it gets me going. You're dropping the ball. You're missing the boat. Tag team wrestling. Now I'm going to run through, I got 30, maybe 40, 50 teams from the 80's to talk about, just like I did yesterday when we talked about the 70's. And when we get into the 90's, there's still a whole bunch of legendary tag teams. What have you had in the last 2 decades? As these organizations price out the working man, the family man, the blue-collar lunch pail worker. Because that's what you've done. And you want to brag about receipts and gates and revenues and contracts. Well, when you're charging thousands of dollars for a ticket, that's why you're breaking records. I'm not impressed. I'm really not. It's not about me. I'm giving you my viewpoint, and I think I fucking earned it. I don't deserve anything. I've earned it in this business. Pretty simple. Oh, lighten up, man. I know I'm a little intense, a little cantankerous maybe. How about maybe a little vociferous? We're only 10 minutes in here, man. Hang on. We're going to go about an hour. It's the weekend. You guys aren't doing anything. There's no PLEs and pay-per-views. A March Madness. I get it. I understand. Baseball season hasn't started yet. Not bad. You guys hear something? And I certainly want to acknowledge people in the community who I consider brothers and sisters and people that are loyal to me and I'm loyal to them, because there's no difference. We're all the fucking same. You guys know that I moderate for the top podcasts in this space, in the community, on YouTube. Whether it be JD from Off the Script, the number one fucking podcast on YouTube. And when he's with his co-host, Jason Solomon, the Solomonster, or Heel Jesse, the Chi-Town Smark, and of course the OGs of the IWC, and that would be the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. That's right, DT and KC. It doesn't get more OG than those two. And then there's my regular brothers who I moderate with and hang out with in the community, who have their own channels. Go out and subscribe to all of them. Whether it be my brother, the Hoolagrim, that's right, Hoolagrim, or Big O, Otis Gaming, Big O Gaming, Funny Rob, baby, the Mid-Mo Smark, Scripts, Future, the Wrestling Council with Comic Book Bob, Hollywood, and here's Johnny. Alexa, you mechanical AI bitch. Play Tropical Thunderstorm sounds. You know I got heat with this AI mechanical bitch, right? You know that, David T, right? You guys know that. You know that, Austin. Rein her in over here, man. Also, my buddy and soon to be my partner from the Pro Wrestling Wire, the Professor Rick Del Santo in the Rick Del Santo Show. Pretty soon, you'll see me over there. And of course, the regulars, Power and Glory and Hey Roma, Roma Nation and Mancini's Maniacs over on Victoire Podcast with the host, the Master Emir. So listen to Power and Glory and Hey Roma from two legends in this industry, Pretty Paul Roma and Mario Mancini, the owners and trainers at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. And again, Amir, one of the top hosts in this space. Victoire Podcast, if I said that right. So now that we have all the greetings and salutations out of the way, I hope I didn't miss anybody. And again, I got heat with this bitch. AI is coming. Stay mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually fit. Surround yourself with like-minded people. Prepare yourself. Big brother. I say it on every show. Wars, rumors of wars, crime, illegal invasions, the environment, the planet, politics, and all the horse shit that comes with it. Stay sane, stay sober. And that's a shoot. Here we go. 80s tag teams in the depth and the legends. There was nothing like the 80s and pro wrestling tag teams. I hope this isn't too distracting because you know this bitch is going to come in and interrupt us again. So stay prepared. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but as I said, and I'll say it again, raw dog. I hope everybody's doing all right out there. And I mean that. Alexa, lower the volume.
This device is at volume 6.
Do you see how she fucking talks back to me? Do you see that? And again, I apologize for the cussing. I'm on a roll today. Do you hear this? All right, here we go. Again, no particular order. Leave a comment on what you think and the teams that I may have missed. And the whole point of this is to bring attention to tag team wrestling in 2025 and how they've dropped the ball. Who are you going to talk about? FTR? New Day? The War Raiders? Who? The Hurt Business? None of these teams have been together for that long. Where will they be 10 years from now? Will you be talking about them like we are here 30, 40 years later about these legends and the depth? Because there is none. Here we go. Now, I'm not going to put it in any particular list as far as like top 10, top 20, but just the sheer, and I'll give a little quip, a little synopsis of each team. Now, when we talk about the 80s and tag team wrestling, what a rush. How could you not start off with Animal and Hawk, the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors? In my opinion, perhaps the greatest tag team of all time. They hit the scene, and it didn't matter if you were heel or face. They took it to your ass. When did a tag team ever sell out or put asses in the seats like the Road Warriors did? Yeah, stiff, maybe difficult to work with, but there was no denying their ability and their physicality, their look, and what they did for this business. Their legendary feuds with the powers of pain, the Warlord and the Barbarian from that era. The Samoan SWAT team, Fatu and Samu. Luger and Sting. Nikita Koloff and Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev.
Freshly made ravioli or hand-pulled ramen noodles.
What the fuck are we talking about here?
Sapphire
Alexa,
either.
play tropical beach sounds. What do you guys think of that?
Here's a station based on tropical
Do you see
beach
what I have
sounds
to
by
put up
Rain
with here?
Sounds.
Now with all this water flowing, I feel like I have to go to the bathroom at my age. So we're talking about the Road Warriors and their rivalries. Who could forget that bench press contest between Warlord Barbarian and the Road Warriors and the eye socket from Animal? And then their feuds with, whether it be the fabulous Freebirds, Gordy, Roberts, and Hayes, the Midnight Express, Condrey, Eaton, and Lane. Just as I spew off these tag teams here from all the different territories and major companies, those teams right there blow away any team in the last 20 years in pro wrestling, in the last 2 decades. It's just that simple. And let's not forget about Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody, the toughest tag team on the planet, as tough as the Road Warriors, without a doubt. And I'm bouncing all over here because I want to talk about these teams. The Road Warriors, Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody, the Midnight Express, the fabulous Freebirds, Bad Street, Atlanta, GA, Bad Street in the whole USA, Bad Street, nasty and hot. The further down the street, or the further down the block, the worse it got. Say what you want about the Freebirds. They pop world-class championship wrestling. I feel like I'm in the middle of a flood right now, a tsunami, God forbid. Alexa, lower the volume. Alexa, lower the volume. Alexa, lower the volume. And I'm not talking about Alexa Bliss, you bunch of geeks out here. But this is what you put up with when you're Raw Dog. I don't edit anything. I just come on here, ad-lib, organic, and just talk whatever I want to talk about. 2 camera angles, the 80's outboard, the VCR and TV right here in front of me, DVD player, the bells, the whistles, the knobs, the meters, the levers. This is what I'm all about. And a simple Echo, Alexa, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And again, I'm getting carried away with the cussing, because family watches, my daughter, my granddaughter, so I got to apologize for that. I fall short every day, so I'm trying to repent and be the best person that I can be. There's something going on here today. 20 minutes in, don't go anywhere. Let's talk about the depth and more tag teams from this era of the 80s. Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, a big take from the glam metal, the hair bands of the 80s. Morton and Gibson could certainly work. And boy, did the little teeny boppers and pimply-faced girls and all the women in the audience, they certainly put asses in the seats when it came to the female demographic, much like this channel, which is almost 40% female. Let that marinate. Guys out there, if you're not here on this channel and following this channel, I don't know what you're doing, because this is where the women are per population in this industry. They come to the GOC. That's me. They want to hear what I have to say, because they know I have respect for women. It's just that simple. Let's talk about Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret the Hitman Hart. The Hart Foundation. You could even put in Owen Hart for the time that he was there. You guys know some of my history. I've had a chance to be on several events with Jim Cornette in the past. Picked his brain, was lucky enough to be able to talk to him. I had the chance to be in the ring on more than a couple of occasions with Jim the Anvil Neidhart as his manager and across the ring from Anvil. And that's just a fact. Whether it be against Yokozuna, Jake the Snake Roberts, Jerry the King Lawler. That's the credibility that I bring to this channel and why you're here. It makes me different than every other fucking channel that's out there in this space. It's the credibility. It's the relatability. It's the authenticity. I've also been lucky and fortunate and humbled enough to be on a couple of different events with Bret the Hitman Hart. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. And his very first appearances back in the greater New England tri-state New York area, Northeast, after the Montreal screw job. Let that sink in as I say that again, because you know I repeat, and I'll continue to repeat because that's what I do. Then there's Davey Boy and the Dynamite Kid, a team that hit this country and then overseas in Japan. Konnichiwa, bitches, arigato from the Chaos-san. The British Bulldogs, I almost said the Hart Foundation again, but what a rivalry they had. The British Bulldogs, the high-flying, death-defying ability of the Kid, and then, of course, the powerhouse of Davey Boy. And then you got to throw in Matilda. Am I right?
Start your day with a rich, intense
I think this happens on purpose. David T, are you listening? Are you there? Midmo, are you there? Austin, are you here? Otis Rim, are you listening to me? You see what I have to go through here? Because I'm not giving in to my values of how I present tradition, honor, respect, and old school on this channel.
Just say Alexa
for this show.
That's Alexa.
Let's talk about Axe and Smash, who a lot of people said was a ripoff of the Road Warriors. I'll have to agree with that to an extent, but Demolition certainly left their mark on the WWF. They may have started off as trying to be a copy of the Road Warriors, but they held their own and came into their own to end up being one of the greatest tag teams of the era. Throwing Smash, Axe, and Crush, that was quite the tag team for Demolition. And then they feuded with the LOD. However, briefly, WWF kind of ruined the Road Warriors, in my opinion. That's just where I'm coming from. Giving you my expertise in this industry. My 40-year journey since 1983. Remember that. Not just as a fan. Let's talk about the Horsemen. Let's talk about the Brainbusters. Let's talk about Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, who I also had a chance to pick their brain and hang out with them when I had dinner with them when I went into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame for the class of 2019. Got to hang out with Wyndham, Paul Roma, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, talk to those guys, pick their brain, learn the business, and ask questions of them. And although I'm out of the business, I've been out of the ring, actively in the ring since 2008. But I'm still active today as a color commentator and broadcaster for Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. So why wouldn't I want to continue to still learn, even though I'm over 60 years old? Let that fucking sink in. And look the way I do. Talk about being pickled and jarred and preserved. You're looking at it right here. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I'm humble. I want to give a shout out to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without him, none of this would be possible and I wouldn't be here. That's really what it's all about. So to be able to talk to those guys all these years later, to be able to appear on some of the same events and shows as some of these legends, including the Road Warriors, to be able to watch, listen, study, learn, have respect couldn't be more humbled. And that's the truth. You guys may think I come across gruff. It is what it is. What you see is what you get. Or what you see is what you get. I said, what you see is what you get now, baby. What a great song, right? But it's the truth here on the channel. Let's talk about Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, whether it was the AWA, the WWF, the Rockers, the Midnight Rockers, one of the greatest face teams that you can imagine, kind of like the Rock and Roll Express in the same mold. Just like we talk about the same mold of the Road Warriors Demolition, of the Powers of Pain. This is the same concept here. So you wonder, it makes you think. But the tradition is tried and tested and true. And you learn, and history repeats itself. And you could hate the player, but don't hate the game. The faces and the names will change, but the game will not change. Although what they're trying to do in 2025 in this era, especially over the last decade, is beyond a bunch of garbage. High risk, death-defying. It's going to take somebody to get seriously, gravely injured for the fans to stop with all the garbage they put out on TV. All these hardcore matches. Like, listen, I was in hardcore matches, barbed wire matches, fire, thumbtacks, barbed wire baseball bats with Balls Mahoney, the notorious 187 homicide, Jason fucking Knight, Ron Zombie, lowlife Louis Ramos, some of the most notorious men to ever step into the ring. So I get it. There's a place and a time for it. But when you continue to make it every show, every other match, it loses its effectiveness, whether it be blood, whether it be weapons, whether it be lucha libre. No me jodas, maricón, muévete, culo pendejo, maricón. No offense, man. They nada. Lighten up. But you understand what I'm talking about? Jen, I know that you know. I acknowledge the OTS Tribal Queen. So again, the Rockers, the Rock and Roll Express, same mold. Let's talk about one of the baddest tag teams. And not necessarily, when I say bad, I mean B-A-D-D. And I'm not talking about Tanaka and Diamond. We'll get on to that, the bad company. But I'm talking about a team that you could consider basically the 90s. But they started off in 88, 89. And that was as a tag team that dominated, that could compete with the likes of the Road Warriors. And that would be Rick and Scott Steiner, who turned into Big Papa Pump. I don't want to do the math, the Steiner math right now. But Rick and Scott Steiner, perhaps one of the greatest tag teams, definitely of the 90s. But you could include them in the depth of the 80s, the later 80s. You guys know that, as we're constantly interrupted here on the show. Constantly interrupted. Alexa, play Tropical Thunderstorm sounds for the GOC. That's me. We're going to continue to go through this, fans. So kick back and relax. Enjoy, because I know there's nothing else on this weekend but college basketball. So I'm glad that you're here. Again, the Steiners. Unbelievable. Now, I've only named off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, maybe a dozen teams already. Blow away anything that's happened here in the last 20 years. What are you going to talk about? Them boys? Great respect. They would have fit in here. But that's one of a few. Are you going to talk about FTR, who was falling off into oblivion maybe a couple years ago? The Usos? Okay. But there really isn't much. The New Day? Nah. Teams that have longevity, impact, stuck together in a totally different era. And I get how different it is today. I understand. Progression, it's got to move on, move forward. That's what I do, because that's why I'm still here. And I still cover today's business. But you have to learn where you've been. I said it and I'll say it every time. That's why the rear view mirror is smaller. The front windshield is bigger. You respect, you honor the carpenters, those who paved the way that came before you. You move on. But without them, you're not fucking getting here. And you're certainly not going to be able to look into the windshield, mash the pedal, and get to where you want to go. Okay, I'm old school. You're stuck in the back. You're stuck in the past. Wrong. Wrong answer. Understand what it is I'm talking about. Emotional investment. Storytelling. Ring psychology. Putting asses in seats. Looking the part. Living the life. Stop exposing the business like The Rock. Yeah, who I had a chance to work with and be on the same event as well. In front of almost 10,000 people in Brooklyn, New York. For a grand opening of a Bally's Fitness Center for the AWA superstars in the World Wrestling Zone. Johnny Stewart, Dale Gagne, a whole bunch of other people. Tony Myers, the Twin Turbos, Heaven and Hell, the Gregorovics. Justin Roberts, the AEW announcer and former WWE announcer. Yeah. The pictures and the videos are here on the channel. Navigate the playlist and you'll see a good 60 to 70% of my career and who I've been in the ring with. Who I've touched elbows with. Who I've hung out with. Over 20, 30, 40 Hall of Famers. Again, I'll say it. Hello, McFly. The same lines because they're tried and true. Is anybody home? We're 30 minutes in, and I'm just getting started. Stay here. Come back whether you're watching this on the replay or watching it in the premiere. So we'll transition from the Steiners to the Varsity Club. Rick Steiner, the dog-faced gremlin, and how about Braun Breaker? Braun Steiner. And then Scott's other son who plays a college basketball who's going to try to get into pro wrestling too. There's 2 or 3 of them. Second, third generation grapplers, kind of like the Harts, the Von Erichs. Of course, the legendary Samoan dynasty, who I owe a lot to in this business. Speaking of tag teams, was lucky enough to manage Umaga and Rikishi and be across the ring with them, and Yokozuna. I want you guys to think about that. Traveled with Samu, Fatu, late 80s WCW, learning the business. Freebird Michael Hayes. Got to hang out with Simmons, Reed, Jack Victory, who was a big influence in this game back then. Sting, Luger. These are the facts. No bullshit here. No exaggeration of the truth. Just telling it like it is. The Varsity Club with Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Mike Rotunda, a.k.a. IRS when they ruined him. Now, Steve Dr. Death Williams, one of the greatest grapplers, collegiate, amateur that you could think of, and a legit badass. The Brawl for All was a fluke. There's no denying Dr. Death could kick just about anybody's ass in this pro wrestling industry, with the few exceptions of a couple of guys, like maybe obviously a Haku or an Andre the Giant. We could throw in a couple other legit badasses too, like Snuka and so on and so forth. The Steiners. But you know what I'm talking about. You understand what I'm talking about. Legit tough guy. And when he teamed with Terry Bam Bam Gordy, unbelievable. I'm not even going to get into the Freebirds, who also belong on my Mount Rushmore. And I'm going to tell you right now who my Mount Rushmore probably is. The Road Warriors. Brody and Hanson. The Fabulous Freebirds. The Midnight Express. That's probably my Mount Rushmore, but it's close because there's a whole bunch of others out there, as I'm showing you right now. So again, the Varsity Club, Rotunda and Williams, throw in Rick Steiner. They had Kevin Sullivan was a part of it. There were other ones. He was the inventor of it, Kevin Sullivan. What a tag team they were. And then we transitioned into another tag team who just went to the Hall of Fame last year, who was a part of the Varsity Club, Mike Rotunda, when he teamed up with Barry Windham. Also was fortunate enough to be on several events with Barry Windham. What an unbelievable athlete. What an unbelievable grappler. And then again, being able to re-up with him and the Horsemen at the 2019 Fan Fest and New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame is priceless to me. I don't go to live events. I don't go to shows. I'm not a fucking hang around. I don't do any of that. I march to the beat of a different drum. Hanging out, socializing, getting to know them, breaking bread, picking their brain in a social atmosphere, letting them see you outside of the business as a real person, as a real man who has respect. That's how you get around. That's how you get booked. That's how you learn about people and get respect. Being real. So very fortunate for that. The U.S. Express, their feud with Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik back in the 80's, and then the whole Cold War thing, the whole thing going on with Russia and the hostages and everything else going on with Iran, really was something. How, whether it be Vince Sr., who used all the ethnicity in the 70s of the Italians, the Puerto Ricans, the Irish, the Polish, and really using that, it really was something. Even the Native Americans, so on and so forth. Think about that. What a genius Senior was. And then Junior tried to do it too with Slaughter, the Sheik, during that whole affair going on there. That's what they've done. So incredible tag teams. And that's an easy segue into the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. No. Too early? Too soon? Too much? I know we're at odds with them, but can't we all get along, man? I don't give a fuck what race you are, color, creed, your background, your religion, your politics, your sexual orientation. I don't give a fuck about any of it. Keep it to yourself. Don't broadcast it. I don't need to know. Live and let live. Because you know I don't give a fuck, right? And I mean that in the sense of this business because I care about people. And again, the incessant cussing, I really do apologize for. I get it can be a turnoff and you don't have to be it to be cool and emphasize, but it's not. It just comes across that way and it comes out. Remember my background and being from the streets and what I'm all about. Whether it be bounty hunting for the high court system, the DOC back in the day, 25 years behind the walls, or with the pro wrestling's original bad boy, Dr. D. David Schultz. Don't call me fake. Sheik and Volkov, one of the most underrated tag teams in the history of pro wrestling, I believe. Longevity, tag team champions, the ultimate heels and bad guys. Always had the managers by their side, Classy Freddie Blassie, so on and so forth. When managers meant something in this fucking industry, the Grand Wizard, Captain Lou Albano, Classy Freddie Blassie, Gary Hart, Jim Cornette, J.J. Dillon, Jimmy Hart. And I miss Precious Paul Ellering, Paul Jones. I'm missing Sir Oliver Humperdinck. I'm missing a whole bunch. I get it, but you guys get it. And how not only has this business dropped the ball in the last 2 decades with tag teams, they've also done it with pro wrestling managers. People that actually were either former wrestlers, like the legend Bobby the Brain Heenan, or managers that got in the ring and took the fucking bumps. Not like today's managers who hang around and do garbage. Prince Nana, Paul Heyman, yeah, he's got longevity, can cut a promo, but are they in there taking the bumps? Occasionally, maybe. Who else can you name? Who else is around? They transition managers, and I know I'm all over the place, but this is the stuff that sticks in my craw. Not crow, but don't ever underestimate the crow. Perhaps one of the smartest bird on the planet. And they don't forget, and they got a memory. And if you screw them over, they got revenge, and they spread it to their friends. And that's not a work. I don't have a tinfoil hat on. Research is your friend. The Crow. So that's why I'm talking about pro wrestling, honor, tradition, history. Where is it? Nostalgia just ain't what it used to be. A nickel can't buy a dime anymore. A dime can't buy a nickel. Whatever Yogi Berra said. Speaking of that, on a somber note, quick moment of silence. Rest in peace to Big George Foreman. One of the best heavyweight boxers in the history of the pugilistic art form. Rest in peace, Big George. I was a huge fan of yours in the 70s and 80s. And talk about a guy, I'm not talking about the George Foreman grill or the George Foreman clothesline. I happen to have a couple of his XXX shirts, by the way. But a true gentleman, a true Christian, found spirituality after being one bad son of a bitch. Represented this country in the United States Olympics. He deserves a moment of silence in our respect. People say rest in power. I say rest in peace, George Foreman. Thank you for the memories. My condolences out to the family and fans of George Foreman. So that's what we do here on this show. We start off with a topic, but as I said, it's ad lib, it's organic. Nobody else can do this in this industry. Off the fly, off the cuff. I don't care who you are. And it's not bragging. I'm just telling it like it is. Because you know, here's the line. Wait for it. I'll say that to say this. Because I tell it like it is. Those that know me, you know. So Sheik and Volkov, that's what we were talking about. We got on to Vince Sr., Vince Jr., and how they use the business in the current times. Let's go on to, and I briefly mentioned them at the beginning of the show, and that would be the Warlord and the Barbarian, the Powers of Pain. Also had an opportunity to meet and hang out with and break bread and be on the same events as the Warlord and the Barbarian. The photos are on the website. If not, I'll put them up there. They're all right here in the vault of Chaos Chronicles. Two big, bad grapplers. And then when the Barbarian was in the movie Body Slam with Tijo Khan, the Samoans, Piper, the Tonga Kid, which is originally how I ended up really getting introduced personally into the business back in '83 when the Tonga Kid was only 17 years old and I was bouncing at the biggest clubs here in the Northeast. That's when I got to meet Little Sam, a.k.a. the Tonga Kid. And it went on from there when I went into '84 and tried to go to the Quest facility where Mancini was and Roma and Paul Perez and Big Steve, Dave Barbie, all the guys that we talk about and that Mario talks about. Yeah, I didn't make it through the training. I hung around for a little bit, ended up basically being booted out. I didn't make it at that time. I had injuries. I didn't tell anybody. I couldn't cut the mustard, and I was honest about it. But I came back years later, made my debut as a manager, still took the bumps, and found a way to get into this business. And had an impact and was the biggest, baddest pro wrestling manager in this fucking industry. And that's just a fact from my day, my time, and what I did. This isn't about me, but a lot of people email me and inbox me and say, Chaos, you never talk about yourself. Big Daddy, you never tell about yourself. I try not to because this really isn't about me. I'm not here to talk about me. And nobody'd be watching if I was doing that. I didn't have a career in pro wrestling. It was an on the side hustle. You guys know what my bread and butter was protecting society from society's worst. 43 minutes in here, don't go anywhere. We got a long way to go. So the Powers of Pain, really not the greatest grapplers, especially the Warlord. Barbarian could hold his own, had a lot of longevity, but you got to respect them as a team that really made an impact back in that era and into the 90s as well. I'm focusing on teams that were strong and were introduced and were in the business and made their huge impact in the 80s into the 90s, because I'll get onto that too. I'll get on to tag teams of the 90s in the next episode. Go back and check out the ones from the 70s that I did. And I missed a lot. A lot of people have come into the chats and the comments, and I'm glad that you're giving me your thoughts on teams that I may have missed or overlooked, because there's a lot of them. That's how deep tag team wrestling is, and that's the point of this fucking show. And these last couple of episodes are moving forward the next few, because it's something that, again, I have a burning desire for. Powers of Pain. And, the next tag team I want to talk about, I've been in the ring with, and it wasn't pretty. I was with Sledge and Flash Wheeler against Luke and Butch, the Bushwhackers, who are really the sheep herders. When they were one of the most barbaric teams, and they were around for 20, 30, 35 years. Luke and Butch, everyone knows them as this, licking everybody, and they were entertainment, the goofy tag team. Go back to WWC, the World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico and all over the world and all over the country, in New Zealand and Australia, all over the territories. The Sheepherders are one of the most dangerous, notorious, feared tag teams of the 70s and 80s. Give them credit for taking whatever Vince garbage handed out and made it into cartoons, and they went on for a lot of success for the Bushwhackers. Another incredible team that people in this era who weren't around for back then, you probably hit the sheets or drip down your daddy's leg. No offense, man, I'm being a little raw dog here, but you don't know about that history. And if you do, I commend you. And I eat my words for those who are out there that can prove it to me that you know what the fuck you're talking about. The Bushwhackers, a.k.a. the Sheepherders. What an underrated team, and certainly a nasty, brutalistic team for the day. Let's talk about the Russians and a guy that belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame. The Russian Bear Ivan Koloff. And one heck of a Christian and great man, and that would be Nikita Koloff. And then they brought in Barry Darsow, a.k.a. Crusher Khrushchev. What a tag team they were in the NWA and WCW and the feuds they had. And then kind of like the Freebirds of Hayes, Gordy, and Roberts. And the Midnight Express of Condrey, Eaton, and Lane. And there were others in the Midnight Express. And then you throw in the Russians of Koloff, Uncle Ivan, Nikita, and Crusher Khrushchev. Talk about guys that would transition to having 3 people in the tag team. The originators of the Freebird rules, and I'll even get onto another team that was like that. And of course, the legendary Von Erichs, and we'll get onto them. But Ivan and Nikita and Crusher Khrushchev, no matter what way they teamed, were one of the best tag teams. And look at the depth. How many teams have I named? Let's go on to Doom, a.k.a. Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, that challenged the Road Warriors to SST, and perhaps one of the most physical and not just physical, brutal and incredible workers and territory guys. Hacksaw Butch Reed was around for years. Ron Simmons, an All-American, one of the greatest wrestlers. Damn, Ron Simmons. And a lot of people get hung up on this because it's all about being the first black, the first white, the first Irish, the first female, the first Hispanic. But get over that fucking shit. But Ron Simmons certainly impacted the sport. Got a chance again to hang out with Simmons and Reed. Briefly, but I'll never forget it, the late 80s. That's the connection you get here. And that was the very first time that I met Scott Steiner, when he was the All-American babyface before he became Big Papa Pump. Again, I'll say it. Let that sink in. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. I know I keep using the same phrases, but that's what I have. Those are my catch lines. That's it. So the Russians, unbelievable. Doom, Reed, and Simmons. Again, I digress. I don't want to get into the whole African-American thing, Hispanic thing, Italian thing. We're all fucking human beings. Can we just leave it at that? I don't understand why we can't leave it at that. Why everyone's got to be the first or the latest or the last and emphasize it as a part of that's the way they're getting over because of their skin color or the way that they look or their nationality. That's all horseshit. Get past that. Remember, I was born in early 60s. Okay, was a young boy in the late 60s into the early 70s, and then became a teenager young man into the late 70s, and then by the 80s, I'm already in my 20s living life, experiencing it. And then in the 90s, when everything, that's the second golden era, when the first golden era came around, so to speak, rock and wrestling, WrestleMania, I was already in my middle 20s. Early to middle 20s. And then when it went into the whole era of the ruthless aggression attitude era that all you clowns are hung up on because you were little boys and girls, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, not even teenagers, I was already in my middle 30s and in the fucking industry. Learning from the same people that you were watching. That's just facts. So Simmons and Reed, one of the best tag teams ever. And I'll transition right into, I talked about them earlier. I gave a little Freudian slip. Nietzsche, if you will, whoever you want to talk about. Bad Company, B-A-D-D, and that would be Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka with Bang! DDP. And boy, what an impact he's had on people. Whether it be Abdullah the Butcher, Jake the Snake Roberts, the late great Scott Hall, Lex Luger. Whether he's trying to get himself over or not, DDP Yoga, give him credit for taking people in and doing what he's doing in this industry. And he was the manager with the Diamond Dolls back at the Diamond Babe back in the day. Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond. They were in the third, maybe, company at that time, but a legit tag team that dominated. And both guys could work, especially Pat Tanaka. Talk about a legend who's been all over the globe, who's been in the ring with everyone, a legend himself, a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, also had the chance to work with Pat Tanaka. The same night, along with Chris Candido and Public Enemy, specifically Rocco Rock. Sal Sincere, Tom Brandy, Big Slam Vader, not Van Vader, all on that same event. Tanaka was so gracious. I got to be in his corner through a match that lasted almost 45 minutes. Truly unbelievable. And Candido, that's another story for another time. Had a chance to be in the ring more than once, across the ring from Chris Candido as the opposing manager. And yeah, I got bitch slapped by Sonny. She gets what she deserves. You reap what you sow. That was a different time back then, a different day. They were cool to me. Candido was pure class. But back to tag teams. Pat Tanaka. Do your research. These are getting heavy. I can't emphasize. And Tanaka and Diamond, very underrated tag team back in the day. Bad Company. BADD. So I'll stay in that company in this era too. Guys that really were an underrated tag team. And again, they were in the third company, but that's when it was the big three. NWA was persona non grata at the time, near the transitioning to Crockett, and then WCW. It was the WWF, NWA, Crockett, and AWA. Territories were basically becoming non-existent. ECW was not even a gleam in your daddy's eyes at that point. So there was a big impact. A lot less people in the business. Now everybody can make the fucking business. Anybody, brother, cousin, sister, uncle's ass can make the business right now. Still got to work getting in the ring. I respect anybody and everybody that steps in the ring and that's ever taken a bump. But look at how it's the good old Friends Network. Back then it was a good old boys network, but it's the good old Friends Network. Certainly not living a life. What a totally different era in the physicality and the reality and what you went through. And the brutality and the travel, the money and the miles, as Captain Lou Albano said. One of the biggest influences in my career, who I also had a chance to be on several events and truly pick his brain. And that's who I molded my character after. A combination of Captain Lou, Jesse Ventura, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. A little Cornette, but not really. All rolled into one with my own twist as the GOC Big Daddy. Giving you my influences and peeling back the onion, the grape, the curtain, whatever the fuck it is that you guys say. So, the Destruction Crew. Mean Mike Enos and Wayne the Train Bloom. Two incredible athletes, two physical guys, two guys from that whole Minnesota area. Whether it be the Hennings, Rick Rude, the Road Warriors, Scott Norton, Ric Flair. How many did Crusher Khrushchev? How many different guys came from the Minnesota area that were unbelievable with Vern Gagne and that whole area? A lot of tough guys from that area that went on to be a big success in the world of pro wrestling. So again, the Destruction Crew, Enos and Bloom, very underrated. But that's a tag team, whether I be talking about Tanaka and Diamond, Enos and Bloom. All these other tag teams, nobody in today's age that I mentioned, the first 15 or 20, nobody could touch them. But these are guys that are considered mid-card tag teams back then, upper mid-card, would dominate today. Well, except maybe the Hurt Syndicate, because they hurt people. But they're not even a regular tag team. But I'll give them props because they look what a pro wrestler's supposed to look like, which half of you mother effers in this business don't even take any pride in your ring gear and how you look when you step into the ring. And I'm talking about guys like Kevin Owens,
Motion detected at front camera.
John Moxley, or even the independents. Look the part, dress the part, be a professional. Take pride. Omega coming out in shorts and a sweatshirt. What are we doing? Where's the professionalism here? Stand by. There's always somebody at the front door. Maybe it's Mancini and Roma and Paul Perez. Maybe it's Rick Del Santo, the professor. I don't know who it could be. Maybe it's my granddaughter and my daughter and my son-in-law. Maybe it's the wife. We do a show on here too. Go over to the playlist. Dinner for Two. You can see the GOC and Mrs. GOC. In reality, because I put a face to the product, I'm not hard to find. I get it with the glasses. I'm not hard to find. You want to know what the fuck I'm all about? Follow me on social media. Go to the shorts. You'll see my whole family. Go to the podcast. Well, that really is. I guess that's a show as well, not a podcast. Dinner for Two. And you'll see me and the wife talking about what interests her as I actually statazi for a little bit. How about that? We're coming up on an hour in, and I have so much more to talk about. So I just mentioned those teams and comparing it to today's product, which is persona non grata. Let's talk about Greg Gagne and B. Brian Blair, the Killer Bees. Not only were they a team in the AWA and the WWF before they became clowns, I talk about two smaller, lightweight guys that could work. High flying, that's what high flying aerial tactics is all about. A la the Killer Bees, or someone like the Rock and Roll Express, or someone back in the day like Antonina Rocca or Argentina Palo. That's what I'm talking about. And you guys want to talk about today? Lucha Libre, which I love. The Killer Bees. Another tag team that was in the middle that would dominate in 2025. Remember the old SNL skit? A buzz buzz. A buzz buzz. John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. The Killer Bees. A buzz buzz. When Saturday Night Live, a buzz buzz was actually Saturday Night Live. Belushi, Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, whatever, Jake Curtin, Garrett Morris, whatever. The originals. The first 10, 15 years when it was unbelievable. Not the horseshit woke stuff, propaganda agenda that you want to push today. I haven't watched it in 20 years. Let's talk about Raymond and Jacques Rougeau, another underrated tag team from the 80s that could compete with anybody in the ring. Longevity, can work their ass off, feuded with all the top teams and legends. But these tag teams that I've mentioned here are all tag teams that for that time were considered mid-card. Today, where would they be? You tell me. They'd be at the top. Look at all the teams I've named off here. And I still have another 2 pages from the 1980s. The Islanders. Haku and the Tonga Kid. Ming, Haku, the toughest man in the business, legend has it. And I just was able to hang out with him, meet him last year when I inducted Paul Perez, second generation grappler, co-trainer at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, cousin to Roberto Soto from the WWF. His parents were both luchadors and actually trained in his basement, and that would be Mr. Paul Perez, inducting him into the class of 2024 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Got to meet Haku. What an unbelievable experience. What a gentleman. A more calm, cerebral demeanor on anybody I ever met. Had hands almost the size of my head. You could feel the presence in his aura just being around him. Talk about respectful. I love that man for the interactions that we had. Again, I'm not acting like I know any of these guys and go over their house and hang out with them, but I've had the opportunity to be with them, pick their brains, listen, observe, watch, learn. I said that twice. Take advantage of those situations away from the business. I was fortunate enough to be an insider. So I got that much respect to be able to do the things and accomplish the things that I did. I owe it all to the people that allowed me to work with them. The Islanders. And let's talk about a personal friend of mine, a brother I consider him, and a legit badass. Head trainer at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, also in the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. One half of Power and Glory, the Young Stallions, Pretty Wonderful, the Four Horsemen, and that would be Pretty Paul Roma, along with Hercules Hernandez, his true brother. Power and Glory, another severely, severely underrated tag team. The Powerplex, the physicality and the strength of Hercules Hernandez, the pure athleticism and toughness of Paul Roma. And now what a mind this guy has for the business as he books and runs Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, is the storyteller, is the creator. Unbelievable Power and Glory, underrated tag team that would fucking dominate any company here in 2025. And they were considered what by Vince and a mid-Carter tag team. Dropped the ball on that one. Power and Glory, Roma and Hernandez. How about the Heenan family? As we go over an hour here. The Heenan family. No matter what combination you put together, but in particular, the biggest tag team, short of maybe Earthquake and Avalanche, Typhoon and Tugboat and whatever the Tenta and Ottman were called. Perhaps another great tag team and a huge, biggest tag team and could move. Bundy and Studd. King Kong Bundy and John Studd. Think about that tag team. Obviously, I'm going to say on the shorter side, didn't have the longevity. Do you think Brian Cage and Lance Archer could hold up to Bundy and Studd? Or the Hurt Syndicate? I don't think so. Look at the sheer size. You don't have tag teams like that anymore. Two monster teams. Earthquake, Avalanche, Typhoon, Tugboat, whatever you want to call them. Shockmaster. They really were a force to be reckoned with and had athleticism for big men compared. You won't see anything like that in the business today. And you got to put Bundy and Big John Studd in there. And I was a big fan of Bundy. And you know I had a running feud with Bundy for years. Was in the ring with him more than once. Yeah, and he stiffed me and he potated me out in Las Vegas. Bullhead City, Arizona. Colorado River across from Laughlin, Nevada. But I deserved it. One of the times I screwed up in the business. There's been a couple of times. Just like everybody else. Don't get it fucked up. Fuck around and find out. Is that what they say? I was on a show with Bundy for the NWA. Walked by and was with the boys. You never know who's listening or who's watching. And I love you, Chris. I love you, Bundy. Good personal friend when he was alive with Mario Mancini, true brothers. I said, here comes that fat son of a bitch or that fat fuck Bundy or whatever, working with the boys, disrespectful. I get it. I own it. I got to eat it. Little did I know there was a female that was sitting a few rows behind us, and it was his wife. So obviously she said something to Bundy. And again, I didn't mean any respect, but it came off as disrespectful. So he got me in the locker room. And he said, hey, Big Daddy, you had something to say about me when I came into the building today? I said, yeah, Bundy, I was only kidding around. Yeah, I called you a fat ass or lard ass or something like that. He said, be careful what you say and who you talk to in kayfabe, because you never know who's listening. My wife happened to be in the building. I'll let it go at that. Now, I expected maybe to get my comeuppance at that point. I certainly wasn't going to back down in the other situations either. But when you know, you know. So it is what it is. He let it go. We worked together a couple other times, and then I saw him out west working for the AWA Superstars. We were in the main event, outdoor arena. In the background, you could see the Laughlin Casino in the background where they had that big shootout with the Angels and Outlaws or the Mongols back in the day, the 81. You know what it was all over TMZ and stuff like that, just to relate it to the area. And the Colorado River's right there, we're Bullhead. Outdoor arena, Justin Roberts on the show, a whole bunch of other guys, especially Heaven and Hell, who I love, my brothers. I don't know. They were rumored to be, they were trying to get Dale Gagne, Johnny Stewart. I love illustrious Johnny Stewart. 30,000 people there. Well, we certainly didn't get that. But just to be out there, to be paid to work on somebody else's dime as a pro wrestling manager, unheard of for the time. But again, I was with DOA Crunch, big man against Bundy. Bundy took out my guy in less than 5 minutes. I got in to try to break it up. Big forearm shiver to Bundy's broad shoulders. He turned around, grabbed me by the collar, pushed me back into the corner. Bam! Right between the fucking eyes. Actually, right on the side of the jaw. I went down like a sack of potatoes. Oh, he gave me a potato. He stiffed me. I'm not embarrassed of it. I took it, went down, and then he took his 400 and something pounds at the time and stood on top of me and shook the ropes. I rolled out of the ring, could barely breathe for about 3 days, and we had done an autograph session earlier in the casinos, sitting right next to each other, and Bundy said to me, I got to give you credit, Big Daddy, still not letting me in, and it's months later from the incident where I called him a lard ass.